Get it.
What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Speaking of game, episode 10.
What up?
I'm Coach Wright. All right. I'm here with our lovely co-host / host. Coach
What's
E.
up? What's up, bro?
Elite. What it do?
You know, chilling, blessed, highly favored like always.
Yes. Says a lot to being alive around here these days.
Amen.
So, how's everything going with you?
You know, things are getting a little crazy out here in the streets, but, you know, we're here trying to give people more basketball content, something to get them to focus on, you know, outside of the news, the doom and gloom of the news.
Yes.
So I'm ready. I'm excited. I think we got a good list of topics today, so I'm ready to get to it.
I completely agree with you. Let's start out with, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. To start out, thanking you guys. If you have tuned into it past, thank you. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe when this is over. Hit that like button.
Thanks.
Definitely leave a comment. Shout out to those guys or those people that have already left comments. We appreciate y'all. If y'all could just continue to leave in the comments, make sure you get some of your friends involved, family members. We're here to speak the game. This is where we open that curtain up, peel the curtain back, and just invite you guys into our conversations that we normally have on usually a daily to weekly basis. Revolving a game of basketball. The game of basketball is important to a lot of people. It's hands down one of the best sports, if not the greatest sport ever played.
We might be a little biased, but I agree. It's the best sport.
Definitely biased, but you're talking about we're two former players / former coaches. You still coach here and there, do a little bit of training, but we got to keep our fingers on the pulse of the game on all levels, not just professional, but amateur and the college level as well. With that being said, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
About amateur, unfortunately, winter has come on the EYBL season.
Winter's here, man. Dang.
Yeah. So
what I think most people don't know, EYBL. EYBL is a division of travel basketball that Nike is in control of. But that means they are the top Nike-sponsored youth teams in the nation, right? And there could be multiple teams in multiple states, but they are the premier players, premier organizations. These young athletes, if and when they make it to the league, don't be surprised if they decide to go to college. Don't be surprised if they sign with the Nike sponsored college. Don't be surprised when they get to the NBA, they sign with Nike for endorsements.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, to piggyback off that, I think it's huge because for years, if you've been monitoring the EYBL, it's but it is, and it has been one of the best leagues. They keep all stats, all different types of stats on a player. Some
of these stats are better than in college stats. Like, they're so accurate. Because as a former basketball coach, I never coached at a institution where I could actually recruit an EYBL kid, unless they might have gotten in trouble or grades or whatever. So be it. I might actually have a chance to snatch one to my institution. But, if there was an off game, I was always at the EYBL court, one, trying to, rub shoulders with, Muffet or whoever I was sitting next to. But two, I was watching really good basketball.
Yes, it's probably one of the best organized basketball collectively in one area too. And I think that's important because I think we spoke about this a couple episodes ago where, if the NBA was to resume, in which it's looking like right now it's going to, that they would possibly adopt a format like the EYBL, where the EYBL was they were at different courts every month or every couple of weeks. They were at different courts. And so they're doing a lot of round robin. So a lot of these teams got to play against each other. Some of these teams, they didn't get a chance to play against each other until the Peach Jam. And I think that's what it was all about. It was all these mini tournaments that led up to the Peach Jam. And the Peach Jam, to me, even over the course of the last couple of years, has been one of the most competitive tournaments. You play all the you play all these different weekends, but you're playing to qualify for Peach Jam.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen one Peach Jam championship game that wasn't exciting.
They're all exciting. I'm just gonna speak from the girls' standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Those games were exciting. They were high competition. It seemed like almost any given game. I mean, you had on the girls' side, you had players who were going to UConn, players who were going to Notre Dame, players who were going to Oregon.
Yes.
These are premier players. But on the men's side, you have guys within less than 7 months will be entering the name to the NBA draft.
Mhm.
And not just a couple. We're talking about like they're only gonna be in college for their season and be up out of there.
You got a handful of guys, and it's good for coaches because if you get that favorable matchup where two guys that you're recruiting heavy happen to be playing against each other, you get to literally sit down and watch that. I guess it kind of makes it, I want to say, a little bit harder to find a diamond in the rough because all eyes is on everybody.
By the time they're on EYBL, man, I mean, by the time those kids make it to EYBL team,
mm-hmm.
and by the time they make it all the way to Peach Jam,
mm-hmm.
there's no more hiding who a kid is.
Yes or no?
Yes or no, unless
yes or
they
no.
come up, unless someone gets hurt, they lay entry to the team or whatever.
I know a few players.
For the most part, once they're on an EYBL team,
I know a few players that they played EYBL.
mm-hmm.
A few of them play for BABC. If you don't know who that is, that's the AAU team that housed Michael Carter-Williams, Norlands Noel, Wayne Selden, George Niangas. These guys played with, in that system, and they, one went D2 and one played NAIA. So I think it gives you a look at what a player's capability is, but coaches still get it wrong.
All the time. I mean, I've seen players who, I'll say this, let's rewind. If you play on an EYBL team, you are good enough to play in college.
Most definitely.
Okay, so let me recant my last statement, right? Depending on how you play and the caliber of your team depends on what level you play at. Because I've seen girls who were going major Power 5
mm-hmm.
who I'm looking at like, oh, they killed my league. But I don't see them killing in the ACC like that's, and then you see how not even the Christmas break they transferring out. But that's the nerve header under there. But it's sad that they canceled, and they canceled because of the pandemic. But to me, I understand what Nike's trying to do. They're trying to save their butt because the amount of people that are involved in putting on an EYBL tournament, the amount of travel these kids got to do, that part I understand.
There's a lot going on with that too. And then, with everything that is going on, it's like, all right, well, how can you best supervise, not just supervise, but, have a safe area, safe time, safe place for these kids. And, if you've ever been to a tournament, a travel league tournament down here, parents get wild. Parents get crazy. The environment is wild and competitive. So
you're right, but this does a great opportunity for Adidas and Under Armour because they haven't yet canceled their tournament. So what people might not know is that EYBL is just the Nike division of the premier travel league.
I don't think Adidas has been doing one for the past couple of years.
Well, this could be their time that they can at least start 1, 2, or maybe 3 tournaments.
Too late.
Is it?
Yeah.
With a lot of tournaments being canceled someplace, I mean, I know Vegas is probably itching to have some people fly in and stay in some hotels.
Yeah, but all right. So the reason why I say it's too late is because how long are you going to give these kids a chance to actually get back in game shape? A lot of these states haven't really opened up. We're fortunate because we're in Florida, and Florida was like, look, recreational ball is good to go. So, I think that's different. Like, do you have a lot of states? I can see where they bring in their top players, but here's the problem. Who did you like? A lot of players don't have a team, and this time is important for a lot of juniors and sophomores that are going to be seniors and juniors next year.
This is major.
So I want to see how that goes because reputations are made in the summer.
Yeah, but I feel like this could be a great time for Adidas and Under Armour, who, let's be honest, Nike got, we're talking about the pizza pie. Adidas and Under Armour are fighting for one slice.
No,
of
I
the shoe
think
game industry.
I personally feel like Under Armour has been growing over the last 3 years.
They've been growing. They weren't even
4
at the
years.
table before. Now they're fighting for a slice.
I
Okay?
think they're second. I think Under Armour is second behind Nike, especially when you're talking about Travel League.
Okay. Yeah.
When you look
Adidas
at
Adidas has been iffy. They haven't really done a league. They've just done some camps.
But there have been tournaments that Adidas has run, I believe, that it has no sneaker affiliation. And I think that's what, at some point, we have to get to. And I know we get to it a little bit in the summer, but the problem is nobody's going to that tournament.
So check this out. Maybe it's not about going to the tournament. So I'm just going to put on my coach's hat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a coach at a Power 5 conference school, and I'm sponsored by Adidas, and Adidas has been losing sponsees, whatever the heck you call it. They've been losing some to Under Armour. Yep. So for you saying Under Armour has possibly surpassed Adidas, yeah, you're pretty accurate with that, right? Mm-hmm. So now if I am an Adidas coach and I'm talking to my Adidas rep, like, hey man, you still want to be in Adidas school? You need to do something, help me get some athletes. I know this isn't a conversation that should not be had, but if you want me to recruit guys who have been wearing your shoes for a while, you got to do something. I'm going to leave it at that.
Some schools, I'm going to leave it at this. Some schools have done that. That's why they're in the trouble that they're in right now.
10-4.
One of the schools haven't been caught, but it's clear and evident when, 3 years in a row, they sign top 5 players that come out of Nike camps.
And that's where the game gets really iffy, where that whole pay for play thing.
And that's not what we're not really here for to discuss. Because I feel like it's right. Like, if you're gonna pay the players, play them like you should. Speaking of that, like, let's talk about the Power 5. Like, the Power 5 are like, they're in a way, like they're ready to make a push.
Yeah, which we've been talking about for multiple different times, just kind of hinted at it.
Now they want to make a legislation push.
Which they need to.
They want to steamroll the process that the NCAA has been
dragging their feet on.
Yeah. So if anybody doesn't know, California recently passed a legislation where student athletes can get paid. And there really isn't a up and a down with that. I don't think there's much to be said, but what it does in the market is it now gives schools like California, UCLA, it gives USC, it gives every California school an advantage.
One hand up, 1 inch up, one step above some of the other schools that they will be recruiting the same athlete when you can bring to the table. Yep. You're going to get this, you're going to be in this storm. Oh, you have this tutor in this gym. Well, we have all that. You want $5K? You want $5,000 right now?
And so that starts in 2023. So it's going to start in California in 2023. So the NCAA is basically, they're molasses right now with it. They want to pass it.
They're not innovators or reactors.
So, and me and you talk a lot off camera, behind the scenes too, where we feel like the change that's going to come now, you got the NBA, they're going to have they got a new contract coming up soon. You
got Australian Basketball League, who had just taken two kids that are going to be lottery picks. Mm-hmm. One of them now owns a team in the Australian Basketball League. Mm-hmm. So, he's probably going to try to bring in nothing but Americans, which will be smart. Mm-hmm.
Especially kids that don't get an opportunity to look or get looks. Yep. So talent's everywhere. There's no shortage of talent, especially in the game of basketball. The right system create the, right player could be a right system, and right role player could be a superstar in the right system.
So let's break down who the Power 5 are, right? Power 5 are the 5 largest conferences, or most, not want to say largest, they're the money-making conferences.
The ACC, it's the Big 12, it's the Pac-10. Yep. SEC,
Pac-10.
Yeah, Pac-10. Is the Big East still part of that?
Nope. You got the Big 10 and the Big 12.
Nah, that's the Big 10 is the Big 12.
There's 2 of them.
No, they added.
Let's go.
Let's see.
Quick Google. I got quick Google.
Because last time I checked, isn't West Virginia in the Big 12? They changed the name.
You ready? You have the SEC, ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, Pac-12. Big East tries to squeeze in there.
They were at one point.
But guess what? When you got all them Texas schools and they divided in between the Big 10 and the Big 12.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I know you got your Northeast bias. I know.
Hey, at least I'm honest.
So,
no, but it's tough. It's gonna be tough. And I get it. They're wanted basically even playing field because basically.
So I wrote an article about this in my master's. The paper I wrote in my master's was every AD in the Power 5, they need to get together and realize they need to form their own conference. And by forming their own conference, some basketball coaches are really pushing this.
Mm-hmm.
Football, not so much because how much money they make in their individual conferences due to TV rights. But basketball wants to do this because you can have a true region. Once again, we're going back to almost like the EYBL style play that we were talking about. Mm-hmm. You have your East Coast region, your Southeast, your West Coast, and then your Midwest regions, right?
Yep.
They can divide every Power 5. I want to say all the teams within the Power 5, it's no more than 40 teams.
10, 12.
Remember, the Big 10 and Big 12 really don't got 10 and 12.
No, I'm just...
At one point, the Big 10 had like 13.
But ACC got like 15 or 16, right?
They got a bunch, but it can't be no more than 50 teams, right? So even if you divide that in half, I mean, some of these conferences, I mean... Because
a lot of those schools, because you got to remember, there's some schools in the Power 5 that don't have a football team.
And that's the thing. And that's why that's been the biggest hesitation about making this, about doing this division. But the Power 5 schools, they need to separate and form their own conference and not follow the rules of the NCAA. What are the rules of the NCAA? They do not help these football and men's basketball teams. They don't help them at all. Now, one thought is this. So I've talked to an AD before about this during my journeys, and they said it can be done because let's say a team doesn't have football, right? Or let's say a conference, like we'll use Florida Tech as an example. When Florida Tech was starting out their football team, the Sunshine State Conference in Florida, which is Division II, they didn't have football. So Florida Tech's football team had to play in a different conference. All the other teams outside of football, basketball can still be within the NCAA legislation, rules, and everything. Mm-hmm. Men's basketball, football, it's time to get out of there. There's too much money being made. And now with legislation being pushed to try to pay these players to allow them to sign contracts, man, y'all need to jump ahead the ball and give these kids money straight up.
They got to compete at some point. I don't think that college basketball is going to drop off immensely because you have people that only care about college basketball out there, and the games are still going to be competitive. Basketball, and I just said it like a couple minutes ago, like basketball is not hurting on talent, and then it's just the NCAA is going to have to sell a story. Well, what do you do if the top 10 or 15 players never step foot in the NCAA during a draft? Then what do you do? How do you react? Because now it's like, wait a minute, I don't want to, as a player, I don't want to go this route if I'm looking to go to the league, right? I'm not going to go to college if I don't have to, because there's this opportunity right here. And then as a coach, who are you doing it for? Are you doing it for you? Are you doing it for them? So you have coaches like Calipari who's like, look, my main job is to make sure that they get to live out their dreams.
And he's been one of the biggest advocates for this type of thing. So I remember watching a documentary, and we were talking about it, pre-production. I forget the name of the documentary. I want to say it was Broke. But he goes, yeah, man, we need to just do this. We can take all the Power Fives and we can just have our own rules that we decide to follow. Mm-hmm. And Calipari is for it because that was his main goal. Like you said, get these guys to become professionals.
He just wants to get them to reach their goals and reach the league. Like what they do with that is on them. Like if he gets you drafted or, you enter the draft.
He did his job and you did your job.
So my thing is, even with that, when looking at a coach like Cal, and he says, "Listen, I don't." What Cal does that most coaches don't is, listen, you could leave, your scholarship is still good until you graduate. So you want to know why?
Tell me why.
Because it helps keep the graduation rate up
where it needs to be. And there's
so
so many of his players, and so many of his players, even while in the NBA,
go
during
back
the
for the summer,
or they do online, and they actually do it. Now, we're not going to get there. I think we can talk more about it. You know, a lot of people don't like Calipari for what he does. I personally like him. I know some people who have played for him. They might not personally like him or his tactics, but they can understand why he did it because he has seen success doing certain things certain ways. But at the same time, his job is to get these men to become professional athletes.
And that's why I agree. Well, not agree. That's why I feel like he's probably his most genuine when he says he doesn't care about winning the national championship. Though he wants to win one.
He wants to win another one.
He wants to win it for them. He wants them to experience that. I don't think he's like, oh, I need to get a national championship.
I'm with you on that.
And the reason why is if you watch how he's coached, I've watched him over the last handful of years take his foot off the brake. I mean, his foot off the accelerator. Not saying that he's taking anything away as a coach, but I think he's being more nurturing to the players that he's been getting. Because I don't think all the kids that go to the school are actually ready for the demands. They can't meet the actual talent that came before them.
Yeah.
And that's not on him. It's just on him. You got more teams doing it.
I do think that the Power 5 trying to do this is a step in the right direction, but they're doing it without an NCAA.
Because they're trying to go around the NCAA.
Correct.
So they need that legislation to make the change to the NCAA because the NCAA doesn't want to.
AKA what they're trying to do, they're trying to get all the ADs and the commissioners of those leagues on the same accord so they can just separate. And if they do that, the NCAA will no longer be operating in the black. If they do that, the NCAA will be losing out on all their money from football and basketball.
You basically force their hand.
You force their hand.
Oh, you don't want to? All right, well, we're just going to go to court and get the federal get them to make this a federal law. And once it's a federal law, there's nothing that you can do about it.
And guess what, man? There's a lot of big time money boosters supporting a lot of these Power 5 schools. There's not a lot supporting NCAA.
Yeah. So, I mean,
a lot of connections with Power 5.
And Power 5 are the ones that's on TV mainly. So,
hey, look, I'm just thinking about Texas alone. I'm just thinking about all those oil people donating.
You got Texas Tech.
You got money donated to West Virginia. You know,
you got Texas Tech, Oklahoma State.
We just go up the whole line.
Speaking about Texas Tech, let's give a huge shout out to Mac McClung. Hopefully it works out. Hopefully he gets eligible.
I think that's
so he could play this year.
Great choice.
Definitely a great move.
Texas Tech has kind of shown they know how to breed some smaller, undersized guards.
Especially over the course of a couple of years, and I want to see how he transitions to a point guard. I think he needs to. I think under the right situation, this man could mess around and be a lottery pick. So you heard it here first. So speaking about lottery pick, let's talk about. It's been a recent article about GM switching up a little bit of tactics in the NBA.
Yeah, man, this came out kind of weird. Go into it.
I mean, I think you was the one who introduced it to
me. I did introduce it. So I guess I'll pick it up. So apparently something has been leaked, and this has been leaked through probably some of these younger kids. So they might have a newer agent, or they might not have an agent at all because of NCAA rules, and now they're leaking some stories. That there are certain teams in the NBA who are now mandating IQ tests be taken of prospective draft picks. I want to say it was the Raptors, Golden State Warriors, Celtics, the Hornets, and also Timberwolves and the Timberwolves. The last two surprised me. The first three, I can see it and understand it. After we spoke about it, I really understood why. Mm-hmm. But this is football. This is a football thing to do.
Here's my theory about that. Not theory, but this is how I feel when it comes down to that. there's so many teams in the NFL that get it wrong because they have a Wonderlink test, right? Your IQ outside does not necessarily determine your IQ for the sport. Okay. You look at point guards, there's a lot of point guards in the league that aren't smart. They don't have great offensive IQ. Or, defensive players that are really great and they have a high defensive IQ, but they don't have, a high enough offensive IQ. Is that the kind of IQ test you're looking at? Or are you looking at? Yeah, but at what point can you play or not? Because an IQ doesn't determine your determination.
It does. It also doesn't determine how well you're able to read certain things, how able you're able to shoot or whatever. But
how quick you can break down a play.
I think this is the NBA trying to get ahead of when these high schoolers get to the league and they can determine who is mature.
Okay. Which
if we look back, I mean, we spoke earlier, I'm not going to bring up, who cares? We spoke earlier how we were talking about two different podcasts that former NBA players are doing. One of them, I think we both really like. Mm-hmm. The other one, you could tell those players what their roles were on teams, essentially, and how well or how much focus they did not have. Me personally.
And I don't want to deep dive into those guys, but I feel like when you look at it, there was a reason why the NBA decided, you have to be at least 1 year removed from your graduating class. You have to at least be 19. What they were noticing is that the league was getting younger and younger. Well, what do you do when there's really no real rules on you reclassifying up? Correct. So I can reclassify up and still be in the league at 18.
Yep.
If you do it right,
because you're still 1 year removed.
But at that time, and you got to understand this trend. Think about the trend that was happening before that. People were taking a year back. They were declassifying
to get a bigger. To look crazy.
They were reclassifying.
They were failing. They were holding themselves back.
And by reclassifying, they were now playing. So basically. And let me break it down for you.
They're 18 and a half, 19 years old.
Say your child is 15 years old, right? And they're a freshman in high school at 15.
Okay.
They play their first year as a freshman in high school, and then they go to a school that allows them to transfer. Not just transfer, but they can also go back a year. So they now are a freshman at 16.
And a few guys that did that, playing against freshmen all over again.
Yes. So now this is what that does for them. They're now also eligible to play at what age group?
15 and under.
In travel ball. Right? Not only are they able to do that in travel ball, they're now not playing with the better competition. And even if they are playing with the better competition, coaches are looking at it like, oh, well, he's only a freshman. And he's even playing better. Like this. So it now increases their value. So, NBA, all right, well, this guy's about to come out. He's senior high school. All right, cool. But when he comes to the league and you look at a player like Shabazz Muhammad, another one who, his age isn't what he said he was. Well, how long did it take you to realize what his true age was? And how does he get throughout college? How does he get throughout high school and get into college with a falsified age?
That made no sense.
So...
them New Yorkers, man, they found a birth certificate.
Shabazz isn't from New York. Stop. Shabazz Muhammad is from Cali.
Listen, I think it's like this. I think it's a mixture of two things, right? I think it's NBA scouts not really scouting. A lot of these NBA teams, these owners do not trust their scouts because these scouts and these GMs have shown over time they luck into drafting some of these people.
They get it wrong all the time.
So I think a lot of GMs, we can't say GMs, I think a lot of governors realize we're going to be wasting money. We're going to be wasting a lot of money here if we keep drafting these young kids every single year, which is why a lot of the governors like the NCAA route to professionalism, because you can see them for 2-3 years.
Yeah, you can watch their growth.
That means you can actually make a intelligible investment.
Yeah, but
instead of making a risky investment on a kid. But at the same time, it's like...
So, and I don't want to bring this guy up, but I'm going to bring him up. Every time I say that, I'm about to talk about him.
Talk about him.
So let's look at LeBron, right? LeBron coming out of high school, he's considered one of the most hyped players to ever come out of high school, right?
Easily.
One of the most talented and hyped players.
I feel like I watched all his high school games on ESPN.
Right. So imagine if LeBron was coming out of high school now.
Mm-hmm. Ridiculous.
With a following, an Instagram following, a Twitter following. Like,
the hype is beyond belief.
Yeah. And some of these players, and some of these players aren't as good as the hype. You have a lot of players right now that are or have been paying some of these websites, some of these scouts, some of these pros to say, oh, this kid is really good at this, or this kid is really doing this. When I literally watch the game and I say, where? How can you tell me how good somebody is outside of them dunking? Because if you think a dunk is the only thing that makes a player great, then you should not have your job. You should be doing something else, because you're great at marketing, but sorry, pardon my language, but you suck at evaluating talent.
A lot of them do, and that starts at the college level. And that escalates all the way up to the professional.
But they're doing it right now in high school.
I know.
We got players. I mean, we've talked about one player, me and you personally, I've talked about one player for the last 2 years, and I told you from the minute that they got on the scene, I said no, they was trash.
You did.
And then I said, I can't wait to see them play in college. And then I seen them play in college, and it validated everything that I said. And at the same time, it's not that I think he's trash. I just think he's not the hype. The hype on him is he's trash compared to the hype. So if we're being honest, was he a D1 player? Yes, he was a D1 player.
Which is probably why these teams. Well, let's also think about this. If we're talking about the Raptors, we're talking about Golden State Warriors, we're talking about Boston Celtics. Boston and the Warriors, they have some draft picks this year, right? But for the last couple of years,
3 first-round picks, I think.
From the last couple of years, minus Boston, they've been having pretty good seasons. So their draft picks, minus outside of accumulating them through trades, kind of in the back end, they're outside the lotto. So maybe these questions are to see, would this kid fit this role? Are they mature enough to handle the role of not being the superstar anymore? Because a lot of these kids, like every single draft, you're going to get 1 or 2 stars, possibly 1 superstar out of a draft, right? Most of these guys are going to be role players, journeymen, or they're going to be out the league in 2 years now. So I guess it's just trying to do that, but
the right system would turn a role player into a superstar. And I mentioned that before.
Houston and T-Wolves surprise me with why they don't.
You said Hornets.
No, Hornets and T-Wolves surprise me.
Here's why I'm not surprised on those two.
That just shows me Janie Ainge and Michael Jordan been smoking some cigars.
And I'm not surprised by the Raptors either.
I'm not surprised by Raptors.
So actually, I'm not surprised by all 5 of these teams.
Timberwolves?
I'm not surprised. The reason why I'm not surprised is for the simple fact of I won't say I think. You know me personally, right? But you also know that when it comes to psychology and it comes to observing people, I naturally do that, right?
Yeah.
So as a coach, I'm naturally doing that when I'm observing my players, when I'm giving my players instructions. Not only when I'm giving my players instructions, when I'm sitting down and I'm just observing them play, watching how they move and trying to figure out why they're doing certain things or asking them, having that question, right?
Different questions throughout the course of a game or course of practice or off the court. Yeah.
What the IQ does for these, looking at the Hornets, they're starting to create. They're looking to create a foundation, right? They're looking to create a system.
Because they did a lot of. They've looked like just a spider shooting webs. I don't know what's going on.
Every single one of these teams is a small market team, outside of the Celtics.
If you think about it, it was Oakland. Like the Warriors were in Oakland.
Yep.
They're in San Francisco now, so they're no longer small market.
Not anymore, but
Timberwolves, yeah. Minneapolis is a small market, minus what's going on right now. Raptors, that's a
small market is in Canada. It's the only one in Canada right now.
Yeah. But I'm just interested. I can't wait to hear what type of questions are on it. I hope it's not like the NFL questions, man. I really hope it's not.
I mean, you mentioned, well, maybe these players are, leaking that these teams are doing that.
That's what I think.
So then I'm like, all right, well, then you look at players. We just mentioned Mac. Let's look at Nembhard at UF. Both these players withdrew their name from the draft, and this is a new trend, and then they're going to transfer. And it's like, wait a minute. This player was a top 50. This player was a former top 50. They had solid seasons. They didn't win. Why would they leave? So is it you're coming back and the coaches want you to leave, or you're coming back and you got information from scouts, from whoever provided you information, and you figured out where you was in the draft, and it wasn't where you thought it would be? It's hard to get a promise when you're not in front of anybody. Unfortunately, I think if this was any other year, Matt gets a promise. Matt goes to 1 or 2 workouts and he gets a promise off of the NBA Combine alone.
Yeah,
he would get a promise.
Yeah, but no here, no there.
Like I said, I think it's going to be interesting because it's just going to make for more surprise picks. Oh, well, why did you pick? Oh, had a high school IQ level. Okay, so what happens when that goes wrong? What happens is the guy who doesn't have a good high IQ level, but he's a heck of a player. He's like Kobe. He absorbs the game. His IQ for the game is unmatched. So, are you asking game-related IQ questions, or are you asking just regular basic IQ questions? Because you can't justify to me that you're going to make a solid pick off of an IQ test that doesn't involve the simple understanding of the game.
Yeah.
If you understand the game and it's an IQ test of the game, then all right, cool. I'm willing. That's awesome. I see how that could work, especially when you're trying to figure out if a player can fit in your system if you have a complex system. So it would have been interesting to have back in the 90s, even early 2000s, with Phil Jackson's and triangle offense. Do you have the capability, the basketball know-how? Because here's why it doesn't surprise me with the Warriors. Sean Livingston, Andre Iguodala, Leonardo Barbosa. They signed those 3 guys. No, they had Iguodala, but they signed Leonardo Barbosa and they signed Sean Livingston the summer before they won the championship. Changed your team completely around. It allows you, a player with a high basketball IQ, offensively and defensively, allows you to be versatile.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just read something, and I know you're going to let me speak about it a little bit.
Talk about it. We're here now.
So I asked Ralph if I could talk about this a little bit, just get off my chest. We talked about, EYBL being over, the pay for play for student athletes, and student athletes eventually becoming professional athletes, right, with this IQ test. Mm-hmm. But I know this episode might come out a little late, and that's okay. What's today's date? Today is the 1st of July?
June.
1st of June, sorry. Today's
Before
the 1st.
Before you do that, congratulations to all the WNBA players that received a check today. You made it.
Hey! Today's the 1st of June, right?
Yes.
And this last week has been a lot of turmoil in the United States. And I've been taking notice of what college coaches, football, basketball, have not said anything. And the reason why I just got a little upset there is because someone shot me a DM showing me, oh, look, they're going to start saying things now, meaning the coaches who have been silent. The reason why they said they're going to be saying things now is because now there's an official hashtag. So that's what pissed me off, right? If you are a head coach, if you are an assistant coach, if you're a recruiting coordinator, if you are a director of whatever operations, and your livelihood is dependent on the blood, sweat, tears, hard work, the points scored, the tackles, the 3-point shots, the dunks by young Black women or men, and you haven't said anything until a hashtag, student athletes, take notice. Go to places that you are loved, that you are wanted, that you are understood, and that people support you. Because a lot of these coaches are very opportunistic. And right now with this stupid hashtag, you're going to see it. Coaches for Justice. I'm over it.
I think because we talked about it a little bit, and I'll put it out there. I don't want to hear anything if it's not genuine.
Correct. And now we're gonna hear a lot. We're gonna see a lot of stuff like this now because there's a hashtag. So
there's 2 things. Either you're gonna go against your university or you're gonna go with your university. And I think your time to go against your university has been up.
Yep.
If your university hasn't said anything, I don't give two craps if the coach says it. What did the school say? What did the school say? Because if the school doesn't lead, this you can't look. You can't look for a coach to lead by example, and it should be the institution that leads by example. It should be the institution that's taking care of these kids.
Because that's the foundation of your education.
The NCAA didn't speak up, but why would they? They don't want to pay them. So I don't want to hear this stuff like from these people anymore. Like I'm not looking for them. What I want you to do is show me something, show me change.
Now I will say this. From, like Ralph always says, hit me up, right? Because I'm always ready. I've seen that, HBCUs, without a doubt, they've already said something day one.
Of course.
They always say something day one.
The universities, not even the coach, the universities. And I think that's bigger than anything.
So let's talk about this. I'm just going to say this. Duke men's basketball. Coach K, you've been so successful off the backs of young black men. People see Duke as the highest standard of what every institution should be.
With the balance of education.
With the balance of education, family, sports. Brotherhood, sports. Why is it that today was the first day that your social media pages actually said something? That makes me look at Duke men's basketball differently, y'all. Look at the coaches who said something before the universities did. Look at the universities that said something before the last 2-3 days.
Things
have been crazy.
And the thing is, a lot of the players did. A lot of the former players did.
The former players did.
And that's where, because I want to highlight Bobby Hurley. Speaking of Duke, Bobby Hurley said something. Mm-hmm. So Bobby Hurley's coach at Arizona State. Right?
There's coaches who are going to certain protests or gatherings in different cities, which I think is amazing. Like, I did some research. I'm sorry, Ralph, to cut you off. I did some research. I looked at UF. UF head football coach says something. Cool. University says something. Cool. We're just going to retweet that. Florida State hadn't said nothing. None of their teams. The only one I saw was an assistant men's basketball coach said something 2 days ago. USF, their head coach said something. I believe he also put out a video. I made my way down, and I'm just talking about those three, because those three right now are three of the biggest, right? Mm-hmm. Things that got to change, y'all. I think as we start seeing some of these higher, top 50, top 25 kids, some of them have decided to go to HBCUs.
I mean, and the thing is, Josh Christopher set that tone last year when he visited one, and he put them just on the list. He put them on the list. But here's my thing. Yeah, you should start looking at HBCUs. Everybody's been saying that for years. But honestly, the footage and stuff is out there, and people are going to follow where the talent is anyway. It's not to say that there's not talent in HBCUs, because there's tons of talent there. It's just not the marketed talent. So either we get some marketing going, HBCUs step away from the NCAA as well, form your own league, form with the Power 5 if you must. At this point, like, NCAA, it took a while for the NCAA to say anything. And here's my thing, and I said this to you earlier. This is something that's been happening for centuries. Yeah, I don't care if you say anything today. Have you said anything yesterday? Did you say anything for the past couple of decades? Because it's happening. It's not just about violence. It's literally about injustice. And injustice is an inhumane act that happens all the time. I can guarantee you that 99.6% of the African Americans or minorities in the NCAA have at some point experienced racism.
Yeah, you're right. But I just want to get off my chest, because there's a lot of coaches that their silence. Sorry, their silence has been so loud. But I do want to give a shout out to Bethune-Cookman University. Without a doubt, y'all never let me down. Y'all always on top of it. Much love to Bethune and the athletic department there. You guys are always on top.
I think that's super. Like I said, I think that's super important, because you got schools don't even know if they're going to be opening, right? Because of everything that's going on. But the least you can do is know that you have everybody representing your school. You have to represent your student body. Because if you don't represent your student body and those student bodies don't feel safe outside of just sports, it's gonna be a long summer for you guys. And I mean that theoretically, not just right now, but in the sense of a lot of people will, especially, I don't want to say this right now, so I'm not going to say it, but you know my thoughts.
Listen, it is what it is. I'm taking notice and I'm going to be vocal. I did always say my last word is this. I have said if I ever get back into coaching and collegiate, it's going to be at an HBCU or I'm going to be coaching with one of my best friends. That's it.
And the thing about coaching, and we mentioned it off camera, but that's one of the things we get joy in coaching because we love the game, right? We've gotten a lot out the game, but we also coach because there's a need. And that need is there's a lot of youth out there. There's a lot of people, not just in college level, like there's literally youth like that need, they need guidance. They need a voice. They need somebody that could teach them how to maneuver because their parents might not know how to maneuver either. So you got to be able to show them something and show them a path so that way they can grow to be exceptional human beings. And that goes for everybody, right? So you have to, I think my first year coaching, I had probably one of the most diverse teams. I had kids from the hood, I had kids from the suburbs. But you know what? None of that mattered when we were in the lines. None of that mattered on our way to games. None of that mattered before or after games. Like they still came out and they competed. It didn't matter where they came from. They competed together and they was a team. They fought together during practice and they played together during the game. So like at the end of the day, a lot of the stuff is learned from parents, but you also have people in institutions that not just teach it, but they abide by certain codes. They don't give those benefit of the doubts unless it benefits their pockets, and that needs to change. Everybody's looking to be blindside versus just help out. Stop it. Stop all of that stuff because there's kids out here right now that are growing that could essentially change the world outside of athletics. They just use athletics to create a structure. So man, you got dirty coaches out there too. So
listen, thank you for letting me get that off my chest, Rough. I need to. I was getting a little hot.
My pleasure. And I'm sorry I had to say what I had to say, but I wasn't trying to get on a soapbox or anything. But you got any other comments? Anything else you want to talk about today?
I love us. Stay us.
Stay true. Listen, if you enjoyed the podcast, you enjoyed the show, follow us. Our ads are above. Follow us on social media. I will be taking the social media hiatus, but I will be back at some point.
I will not be.
So holler. If you got any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them in the comment section. Also, like, subscribe, hit that little bell notification so every time we upload one of these episodes, you can be allowed the opportunity to hear what we got to say. Once again, we appreciate your time. And
it's time to go.
Thank you for spending that time with us today. All right. Y'all be great. Y'all be good.
Bye.